I couldn't be more excited. I've got Mike Klein from Digital Wealth Insider
and
next
Frank
to me.
Dolan here. I love
so
it.
Pumped.
Yes.
Mike, first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. We're here at the conference. The energy is high, right? I get to see my friends. It's incredible.
This is great. Well, I really have to bring this all back to you, Mike, because you have been my gateway into the world of Web3, and I love all the innovation that's happening there. But you're steering a lot of the conversation, so tell us a little bit about what's going on with Digital Wealth Insider, because I have been loving your content, and it's really helpful for those of us that are newer to this space, trying to figure out where are the opportunities, what does it mean, whether I'm investing or I'm participating in some way. Talk about DWI.
Yeah, so look, I think this space has had this high barrier to entry for a long time, right? It's very tech orientated, it's very in the weeds, and the space needs the next billion users. This is really the future technology, this is where technology is going. So whether you're a user of this new technology, right, that wants to play a video game but keep their assets right with them, whether you want to be your own bank and not rely on intermediaries, you need to become comfortable with this world and the solutions, but you don't want to be bogged down with all the technical nonsense, right? And when I say nonsense, like lighthearted, obviously there's a lot of incredible technology that's going into these things, but it's like, do I need to know about the technology? So look, whether you're somebody wanting to invest in the space, whether you're somebody that wants to be a user of the space, or whether you're a technologist that wants to build in the space, I think there needs to be more effort around the initial on-ramps of helping people get comfortable with crypto and as an asset class, digital assets, that's why it's called that as a reason, crypto markets. Traditionally it's been a space that's kind of been viewed at as one of two things. Like sometimes when you go to the conference, we joke about this, it's like you get hit with this degen crowd that kind of reminds you of a penny stock crowd or a Wolf of Wall Street type crowd, and they're very loud, so they get a lot of attention. And then you get hit with this libertarian crowd that's like, we need almost this anarchist view. And look, I think both have some validity and use case within the space, especially the libertarian angle, but that's not all crypto is. It's the future of the internet, and there's a bunch of startups with really great leadership and really great talent working on really cool things.
Well, I know you're featuring a lot of those people with your podcast episodes of Digital Wealth Insider, which is great. But something I wanted to point out that I was hoping you could bring us into your world. So let me pause and just say, I have always enjoyed bringing my daughters to Disney World.
Yeah.
And you're walking through, and then there's a character meet and greet. Mickey Mouse comes out from the tunnels, and suddenly everyone goes wild. When I went to ETH Denver with you a year ago, I felt a similar experience, like I was standing next to a character meet.
Yes.
Because you're kind of a OG in this particular space. How did you identify this space early, and what have you seen evolve since then?
Yeah, great. So my background's in venture capital, right?
Yeah.
So I did early and late stage venture capital. Venture capital is, the easiest way that I put it is you're trying to find the next Google or Facebook. And what I mean by that is you're investing in technology companies and you're doing it from a thesis perspective of where might the future be, right? So we all like to read sci-fi books or watch Star Trek, and we see something novel like a spaceship flying through space or somebody teleporting to another planet, and we say, wouldn't that be cool? And I think a lot of technology is imagined, right, in creative outlets like writing, and then you have people go and try to create it. And so the fun thing about being a VC is you get to talk to a lot of companies that are trying to disrupt some traditional industry or come up with a better solution that helps humanity, and you get to invest in those. And so when I discovered this space really in 2017, I saw it instantly. I was like, okay, so this is venture capital 2.0. It's got some nuances in the sense of the investments are liquid, where traditionally they're not liquid, but it's really the same thing. This is where technology is going, and this is where all the smart people are. And Frank, you mentioned we were on the booths at ETH Denver, and I think what you commented to me was, regardless of how outrageously people can dress at crypto conferences, when you talk to them, some of the smartest people are going into the space. And that's a very strong indicator of future success.
Absolutely. So you're investing in this space by running a fund. Can you tell us a little bit about the fund?
Yeah, so Digital Wealth Insider has a liquid fund. What that means is that we invest in tokens that are listed on exchanges. We believe strongly in diversification in the space. Look, the space is early. technology changes a lot, right? We all remember when Yahoo was one of the most dominant stocks out there, and now it's not, right? And so like diversification makes a lot of sense, and it's a space where precision is absolutely necessary in its current state. So if I send Bitcoin to your Ethereum address, it's gone forever. There's no manager to call to get it back like if you send a wire at a bank. Also, if I plug in an address wrong. So you have what I think is one of the most attractive risk and return places to put your capital that's possibly existed in the past couple decades, but at the same time, the barrier to entry, the requirement for precision, the amount of time necessary to stay, there's 10,000 tokens, there's probably 3 to 5 projects that launch every day. It's overwhelming for so many investors. So I was really called to launch this fund, right? I had so many friends that had seen what I had done in the space, they'd seen my success, and they said, I really just want to find someone, I want to find a crypto guy, somebody that can lead the charge, that can stay on top of the space, that can keep the assets safe. And I just decided, look, like, I think there's an opportunity to build a world-class fund that does all that. And so that's what Digital Wealth Insider is. From a fund perspective, is it's a place where investors can invest. They don't have to lock up their capital for 10 years, but they can hit some really big home runs by investing by default, by being in the fund, in what I would think are like the next big Googles of the future.
Yeah, no, that's great. You know, when I think about so many different parts of our lives, if you get into cycling, you may get a bike, but before you know it, you've got a favorite shop. Why? Because there's folks that understand the nuances and they can help you, make the best choices and present new options to you. I feel like in this crypto space, you need a crypto guy.
Yeah.
You need someone that's a sage, someone who's a guide, because there's so many complexities. It doesn't mean it's not approachable, but how do you help folks that are like, I'm beginning to understand this, I'm getting excited, but I need a guide?
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, when I started off, I would have friends that were in the space and they would ping me and they'd say, hey, I have a transaction, I'm not sure if it went through, or I'm looking at this project, should I invest in it? And the problem is it was just so hard to help people from a third party perspective, right? And to your point, look, we work with accredited investors. That's because we're required to, by law, to work with only accredited investors. But I think very successful people have adopted this playbook of you do one or two things really well, and then you find someone else to do that for you, right? So if I wanted to get into real estate, I'm not going to go buy a house and stumble through it and get a call at 1 a.m. from a tenant that the plumbing's broken and all that. Right. I'm going to find a real estate guy, right? And I think this playbook has been executed by some of the wealthiest, most successful families since day one, which is, be an expert at a few things and then find the expert for the other things.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And for some of these projects, now I love talking about innovation and I'm really excited about what we're seeing in this particular space. It seems though, even walking around a conference like this, some of the folks have a hard time articulating their value proposition. How are you guiding some of these projects, knowing that you've seen so many come, so many go, but you're picking a lot of winners right now too?
Yeah, look, I think the space is full of a lot of smart people. And of course, the challenge of being really deep in the weeds on any topic is coming back up for air in a relatable way to somebody that's new to the space, right? And so a lot of these founders we talk to and we say, look, boil it down to the most basic kindergarten way, and they're still miles ahead of where your average person is. And I think it's just, you have this dichotomy where you have this desire for new entrances to the space, but the space is getting deeper and deeper and more complex and more complex. So when I got in, there was Bitcoin and there was Ethereum, and Ethereum was the first platform where you could start building other applications on. And I like to use these analogies as a layer one, which is Ethereum as a city. And so I think, okay, there's one place to do business and I got to choose sub-businesses within this city. Well, now there's tons of chains evolving. There's layers of chains, right? There's layer twos, there's layer ones, and so the space gets more and more complicated. So it's hard, but at the end of the day, the same principles of starting a company, whether it be a brick and mortar business that we might go start, whether it be a Web 2 internet company that somebody might be more familiar with, right? It all comes down to product market fit. It all comes down to validating that there's a problem, that people are willing to pay for you to solve that problem, and that you're solving something that's what's called a pain point. So the analogy is don't sell a vitamin, sell a painkiller. So there's a real pain point that people are having that they're willing to take action to have a solution solved. there are a lot of crypto companies out there that have existed, they've come and gone, that were just really about just building technology. And I think what we're seeing at this conference in particular is a lot of founders are focused on, we need to eliminate all of the technical know-how and use case, and we need to add, it's called chain abstraction, we need to abstract away all the complexities and have an experience that's very similar to that you're used to when you're on your iPhone or something, right? When you're just accessing an app, you sign in and you do whatever you're there to do.
That's great. So what advice do you have for some of the founders in this space right now?
I would say stay true to the principles that have worked. So there's a few amazing books out there. There's Lean Startup, there's 4 Steps to Epiphany. These are kind of the Bibles of starting a company, right? And it almost always starts with customer interviews. So I always liked B2B. The first thing you should do if you're going to start a B2B company is you should talk to 50 executives that would be potentially customers. And you should try to get as much negative feedback as positive feedback, right? So I think the best founders I've experienced, they're obsessed with hacking out negative feedback because they know I'm trying to create something great and it's not great yet. Yeah. So I want someone to tell me that my baby's ugly so I can make it better, right? And so I would say stick to the Web2 principles. Don't get caught into what I can think as, you know, some areas of Web3, they're so enamored with crypto is different. And it's different in some ways, it's revolutionary in some ways, it's evolutionary in many ways, right? And so don't get away from those principles of building a solution, and you're gonna have a much higher probability of achieving market product fit, which is what's necessary for you to have a big win.
So speaking of product market fit, for those that are interested in this space, whether they're investing on behalf of their company in certain technologies or they're investing for their portfolio, what innovations are you really most excited about right now that you think will have product market fit?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about real world asset tokenization. That's just a fancy word of moving traditional assets on chain. So think, you know, stable coins is really the first one where you're saying there's a cash representation on chain, but there's tokenization of gold, of diamonds, of real estate, of art, almost everything that exists in the real world, there's gonna be an ownership representation online. Yeah. That's a sector I'm very excited about. There's also crypto specific problems that are being solved that as they're solved, they'll be very valuable to the companies that solve them. So interoperability, the ability to move from chain to chain in a seamless way. Chain abstraction in the sense of having a user experience that doesn't require any complexities of knowing how to use a crypto wallet, being able to maybe log in with your Google account, things like that. These are things that we're very, very, very excited about. And then traditionally, scalability is something that the space is always working towards, right? Scalability is really, can we have a lot of users doing things at once without the system breaking? And as we get more users, those things are gonna be required. And then I would, of course, have to mention, there's always increasingly involvements in gaming and also decentralized finance, which is very true to my heart, being from a finance background.
I love it. Well, on that, Mike, what's the best way for us to follow you?
Yeah, digitalwealthinsider.com. I'm on Instagram, Mike the Crypto Guy. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You get access to the same updates that our investors who invest millions of dollars get, so it's really incredible information for free. You can follow us on our socials. We post all the interviews with the founders. You can get inside scoop on what's going on in crypto and a little bit of my thoughts sprinkled in there as well.
I love it. Well, that's a lot of value, and it's always a lot of fun spending time with you, Mike.
Always a pleasure, Frank. Thanks for hanging.
Thank you.